Mabuhay, Rezami. Today, I'm not going to be right. You're right there. It's so weird. Okay. Mabuhay, Rezami. My name is Veronica, and today I am not going to be ranting because, in the spirit of Valentine's Day, I will be talking about. Actually, I'm not going to be talking about anything. I'm just going to bring my bae up here. Today, what are we going to talk about? We have some questions that we want to talk about together, and I wanted to bring you in here because you're the one who kind of like molded me into being more critical about things.
I was a bad influence. Let's see. How did activism bring us closer together? I think that's easy.
Yeah.
Like, most of our first conversations were about social justice and politics. And let's see. The very first subject, do you remember?
I remember showing off the fact that my final paper was about sex work.
And I was like,
at Bani.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let me see.
And then I started just telling you, like, yeah, sex work is work. They deserve to be treated just like construction people have union and such. And how come sex workers don't have union? You know, was showing off and be like, on section like 515, Bowdy House Load, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you know.
Bill
And
C-36.
yeah, the Nordic model and why it's not working. And you're just like, yeah, you know, this, that. And I'm just like, yeah. And that was my first semester in uni.
Oof.
So I was just like, let's
Poli-sci
get
baby.
this. Yeah, I was a poli-sci baby. But you were already in your second year of uni.
I was, that's true. Or first year of my communications program.
Mm-hmm.
So, surrounded by people who want to do political communication, corporate communication, and feeling very different, I think.
I remember not knowing what comm means. I'm like,
Yeah, I think I just told you, like, yeah, I'm in comm.
I'm like, what's that?
C-O-M-M.
Yeah, I was like, what is it? Not commercial. Commerce. I thought it was commerce before.
I
And
could never do commerce.
and then you're just like, no, it's communication. And I was like, cool. Never
What
heard
is
of it.
communication?
I was like, cool. Like, I don't know.
No
And
matter who I talk to, they never know what communication means. And I think it's because it's such a broad subject.
Mhm.
Like, I could be in marketing, I could be in public communications.
it's still a new program in a sense, right? Like, people still kind of don't know what's the importance of having a communication degree. And then now that everything is working online, like pandemic hit, everyone was just like,
This is why.
we're looking for communications director, assistant, whatever, anything that has like communication in it. And I'm like, now is your time to shine.
Yeah, but I'm still in school, so no, I can't have a full-time job.
Yeah, so there's that. So the second question would be like, what are the subject of our conversation?
At the start,
In this start, I told you I was Filipino, so of course you started questioning
I was like,
me
oh.
about Duterte.
Duterte, the war on drugs.
Mhm.
That's all I know about the Philippines. And then you were like, oh, well, Duterte is like doing good work. Like, the Philippines need to be whipped into shape.
That's true.
Filipinos need more discipline. And I was like, people are dying in the street.
You're just like, excuse me.
The only Filipino I knew was like, pusher ako.
Oh my
Because
god.
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
Terrified little Canadian girl being like, I'll never go to the Philippines. It looks dangerous.
And you're just like, how are you not seeing this? Aren't you the one in political science? And I'm just like, well, Filipinos need to be disciplined, right? You know, if you got so many kids, how is that my fault, right? So
Maybe it played into the inferiority complex of like, Singapore is doing so good, Japan
True.
is doing so good, why can't we be like them? Why is our crime rate so high?
True. And I remember being like, you know, the Philippines were supposed to be like Perlas ng Silanganan, the Pearl of the Orient. So like I was kind of reminiscing at that time because that's what I heard from my parents. And like, oh, back in the days, we were like the pioneer, the health sector, this and that. Now it's not. Clearly, we just watched a Thailand video about more and more white people, expats, using their healthcare system. But anyway,
medical tourism.
Medical.
Look into it.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of just a subject that comes in, and the subjects that we talked about is very like random and very like various to
I have
nothing to everything.
What is it called? A pinball machine as a brain. So basically I go from one subject to another like super fast, and she can keep up with me.
That's true. That's sometimes. Why?
I think sometimes you still feel like, where did that come from?
Yes, and then we jump into conversation and then we just go pew pew pew. So there's that.
I think if someone was in the room with us, they'd be like,
please shut up.
You know, Don and Michelle just like, oh, dude, should we just leave? And so they can have their conversation.
I mean, for example, what we consider to be date night is opening up a stats website and just commenting about the stats and trying to make links. And like, what was it? We were really, really into looking at world stats for alcohol consumption.
That's true.
And looking at like countries and thinking about the policies that they have and how it impacts like the sociability of their population. Looking at gender division in parliament, gender division in XYZ field, and just talking about that.
Yeah, and like for example, why are certain countries more on the spirit side, where certain countries are on the wine side, and certain countries are on the beer side.
That's so interesting.
You know?
Looking at the stratification of what kind of alcohol different countries drink, and even if they're like very close together, they may have totally different drinking cultures.
That's very true.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and then like we stumbled on the prohibition, and I didn't know about the prohibition, even though like what?
Well, because basically there was so much data missing with the US for like a big period of time, and she was like, why is that? Like, prohibition!
I didn't know that.
Carry a nation!
Oh my goodness.
So cool.
And you know, and that made us like talked about the influence of religion and why it was a thing, and then we talk about like the influence of religion to other countries and such,
and on policies,
and you know, separation of church and state, blah blah blah. So that's like our date night in a sense, and then before you know it was like 4 hours already, and we're both hungry. And
I was a little wine drunk too, so like the stuff just keeps coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think it brings us closer together when we do that type of stuff. Like it's our intellectual connection is just strengthened.
That's true.
By every conversation we have.
And then we were watching a YouTube video about Montreal because we're like having some sort of biennial, but to Montreal as well because we're both from Montreal, and we just paused into that map of Metro.
How people talk about Montreal is so interesting, especially when they're coming from like the US or Europe. They have such a different perspective, and when they talk about our metro system, we're like, we take it for granted. Like,
that is true.
Hardcore.
That is true.
We have art in every single station. What the fuck?
And not only that, I vaguely remember my teacher, I think she's not even a teacher or some art or something. I think she's my French teacher, Madame Felix, who likes a lot of cats. She says that like they made the metro stations all different to help those who has like a visual problem too. Because if you see, each station has a different type of art, so if you cannot read but you see it's different, you can kind of infer like, oh, we're at Jean Talon, or oh, we're at like Saint Henri, those type of places.
Compared to a city like New York, where most of their station, especially on a single line, look very much alike, so you really have to pay attention when you get off, because the station you want to get off at looks just like the one before. So, you know, here it's very much like you look outside, especially if you're a Montrealer and you use the metro a lot, you're just gonna look out and you're gonna know which station it is without reading the name.
So it's cool to know that even the architect, or I don't know if this is their intention as well, but like they're kind of inclusive in a sense. You know, they're already thinking ahead, right?
It's public art.
It's public art, sure.
Which is, I think, something that Montreal is very well known for, like our art scene, our music scene.
The mural scene
yeah.
that I'm doing in secret, but I'm low-key putting it out there because we need clout.
Clout!
We're working on it, but yeah.
She got 100 views on her videos.
Oh,
look at that.
Don't say that. Like, that's make me sound like I'm full of myself.
You are full of yourself. That's been pre-established. Oh, we were talking earlier about how I kind of added fuel to the fire when it comes to her confidence. Like, I'm just like, yeah, you're so smart.
And I'm like, yes, I am
smart. And now you're like the biggest head.
Oh yeah, and every time someone tells me like, oh, that makes sense, I'm just like,
duh.
My ego's being stroked.
Everything I say makes sense. My girlfriend told me so.
Okay, you're just getting more like, it's partly because I'm smart, love.
Oh, it's partly because I'm smart, but I think I partly played into it. Oh, let's talk about how before meeting me, what were you doing on Facebook?
So yeah, if you like this one, do we do that?
Give a thumbs up if the spirit moves you.
Shit. Okay, I'll stop. I'm
It's
releasing
for Valentine's Day.
in the spirit
Happy
of
Valentine's Day to everyone who's in a relationship or not. Please love yourself first.
Start with you, love. Oi. Happy birthday to Erica. Happy birthday! Filipino community in here because of all of those colonial mentality, crab mentality, toxic Filipino